Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G, and I'm here with you every Monday night on WEMS Radio Live on Facebook and on YouTube. And we come together from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. to have spiritual conversations. I bring guests on from all walks of life, different backgrounds, different careers, different perspectives. And we talk about our spiritual journeys. We talk about our current lives, and we talk about the things that have supported us in getting through our lives. One of the things that I like to talk about is the spiritual toolkit. And the spiritual toolkit are the spiritual practices that you use as your go to. So we talk about different spiritual practices and hopes that some of these practices you can add to your spiritual toolkit. My goal is to support you in finding joy and living your best life with grace and ease. And I know there was so much going on in the world and so many things that are happening right before our eyes that we're amazed by some of the things. But I always say you can find a little bit of joy. And tonight I have a very special guest, and we're going to talk about her spiritual journey, the different things that have supported her in getting to where she is now. My guest tonight is Odia Oyo, and Odia is a corporate account manager. She's also a parent, a world traveler, and an entrepreneur. I'm so excited to have her here tonight. Join us.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, you look great.
Happy to be here.
Introduce yourself tonight to everybody. And if I didn't pronounce your name correct, please forgive me. I think I practiced all day, right, to get the accent in the right place, right?
Yeah, so
Go
my name is
ahead.
Odile. Um, as Grenetta mentioned, I've worked on corporate communication for some time, I would say for the last 25 years. It's been a resource that has allowed me to live my life and raise my children. I have two adult children at this point, 23 and 25, both engineers. And I'm just becoming an empty nester, so that's pretty exciting. And really looking forward to the next stage of my life. I think I've kind of done it kind of in a Benjamin Button fashion, where I'm living my younger, more exciting earlier, later in life. So I'm excited. I'm excited for all that's to come.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to have you here to share with us some of the things that you've done. And one of the things that I'm always fascinated by is that you're a world traveler. Can you talk about some of the places that you've traveled and give us some highlights into what those places meant for you?
Sure, absolutely. So my favorite place to travel was Africa, and I've been to quite a couple of countries in Africa: Ghana, Senegal, Gambia, Kenya, Tanzania. Um, and I would say that that was my favorite place to travel because when you go to Africa, unlike anywhere else in the world, everybody looks just like you. And so you get to interact and to feel like a majority as opposed to a minority, which is something I think that we very seldom, depending on where we are from in the world, me being African American, has been something lacking. And I think it gives you a boost of being more confident and grounded in your place in the world when you can visit a place that has a large community of your people and everything, everyone in charge, everything that's being ran from the government to the local businesses to, just everyone. The policemen are all people of color. So Africa's definitely been my favorite place. A couple of places that surprised me that I visited that I was really shocked that I enjoyed as well was Iceland. One,
Hmm.
because I'm not a cold, but it was one of the most beautiful places I've visited as well. Just in the sense of being away wonderland and exactly being what you would expect it to be. Paris too was a shock to me
Mhm.
because I didn't know as much as I did. Just following the culture and the history of what's come out of there and what that culture and history has delivered in our lives and our own history. So I mean, I've enjoyed traveling because it opens and broadens your scope and gives you a desire to live a more vast life
Mhm.
than what you feel you have access to um, just from being stationary in one place, the place that you're most familiar with. And I
Yeah,
must say, which I found kind of interesting, all over the world, but I really have not done an extensive travel throughout the United States. And I guess because I've always felt like I live here, so it's not as important or pertinent to travel throughout the states. But I've decided that that's something I want to do as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
But never I thought about
I
spending money or
understand.
spending.
Yeah, when I was saying I understand the whole idea of broadening your perspective by the different places that you travel and learning about different cultures and how that can support you in your life. And I know that you grew up in a large African family in Brooklyn. Did you were you born in
Mhm.
Brooklyn? Oh,
I was born in Brooklyn. Yes, born in. So I'm a true
born and raised in
Brooklynite. I'd like to add one other thing. Yes, I want to just add one more thing to the travel that I found very important that sometimes a lot of people don't do. Travelers will do it, but I find that a lot of people travel to countries and they spend their whole vacation in a resort. And what I found that's really helped me become a humanitarian or a lover of people is moving out to visit the communities and the people of the land as well, and not just spending that time in a resort and enjoying, well, you've
Brooklyn.
seen one resort, you've seen them all. So really traveling throughout to see how people live and what their everyday life looks like. That's a very important part of travel for me. But yes, I
Yeah,
was
I
born in
always too
Brooklyn.
like to get off the resort, I call it the compound. So when you go somewhere, even if you go when we go on the resort, it's always important to get out to really get see the culture and be a part of everything that's going on. So I think it's important to not just stay on the resort. I was leading into when you were talking about Africa that what was your experience here in growing up in a large African family? Can you talk about a little bit about that being like you came from an African family, you were born and raised here. What was that like culturally for you?
So I will clarify a bit. I come from a large family. We are African American for as far back as slavery has existed in this country. So we're African Americans. My family's not from Africa,
Oh,
but my
okay.
parents very early on and very young. I'm sorry.
I didn't say
My
anything.
parents very early in. Sorry, you wanted to ask me something,
No, are you buffering? I'm not saying
Renetta?
anything.
Okay. No, so I was saying my parents very early in their life because rights movement, there was this whole movement, a couple of different movements happening at one time, but the one that they navigated towards and took to heart most was the Pan-Africanism. And my
Mhm.
father began traveling very early in our lives. And so we all ended up with African names. We were all raised with a certain amount of pride and dignity and connection and education to Africa. So that's why most people kind of get the idea or a sense that we're African people, but we are African. We've just been
Right, we
planted
all are right.
in this society, right? So, but we're African American by birth, and
Hmm.
so it's always been a desire and a dream to travel to Africa, and I would say that that's why it was one of the most, or a few of the most exciting trips that I'd taken. I did grow up in a very large family. I'd
Hmm.
say that following with the African culture and history, there were a number of children that were raised together, and
Hmm.
so you know, it lent to the connections that I felt when I did travel to Africa. Immediate connections, not really having to get acclimated with the culture and the climate and
Mhm.
the difference that some people it take time to really acclimate. For me, it was being there and immediately being immersed.
Could
So it
you,
did create a certain.
I always ask people to talk about their spiritual journey. Could you give us a glimpse into your spiritual journey, how you were raised, and then how you evolved and where you are now?
Yes, I would say my spiritual journey has been one of the most interesting aspects to my life and journeying through it because I think spirituality, depending on who you are, is a huge part of you. And I think that we all approach spirituality differently. I would say that I'd like to say that I believe by nature that I'm an extremely spiritual person. And so with
Mhm.
that, I was raised as an African.
Okay, maybe she went out or we lost her. But yeah, hopefully she can come back in and we can continue with the conversation. Um, what can I talk about while we wait, right? I could talk about my spiritual journey, as we all know, and I can talk about the different spiritual tools that support me in times of need. So I have a very special spiritual toolkit that contains many, many different practices. And I find that different ones work at different times. And she's back, and I will let you know what those practices are as we go along. Okay, welcome back.
Thank you. Let me ask you a quick question. When the call comes through, can you still hear me? Do I need to cancel the call or does it matter?
Yeah, because you went away totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so I do apologize. But I was
okay.
saying I was raised Muslim, and I think very
Oh,
early
okay.
on in my life, the connection of spirituality and religion started to separate from me because I
Mm,
realized that, being raised in Islamic community and my dad being what's considered a preacher in Islam, I heard a lot of debating about different religions. I heard a lot of different leaders debate about different religions, whether it was Islam, Christianity, Judaism, just whatever the religion was. And I very early on began to feel like organized religion was something that didn't suit or fit me. So although I was raised
mm,
very religious, I am not a religious person. I found that I found more connection and peace um, and stability and strength in my life in just having an individual connection with the Creator, the Most High.
mm,
I find that any
mm,
type of religion for me personally, judge no one else's connection or beliefs, but for me personally, interfered or inhibited um, the intensity or the power of my connection for me. And
mm,
so, yes, my spirituality for me is a very personal one.
mm,
I feel like I don't necessarily need a mediator between me and the Creator. And so, for
mm,
me, my spirituality is a personal relationship with God. And
mm. Yeah, I
that's how I
understand
approach
that.
it.
I understand how that can be. What we talked about also is how our spiritual practices and our spiritual journey has supported us throughout our lives, right? And I know that you
Mm.
are an entrepreneur, and that did you make this outfit you have on, right? And I wanted you to talk about the yeah, what's happening with your clothing line and the clothes that you make, and what's going on with your creativity at this point.
Um, I don't have a clothing line. I did have a clothing line at one time, did weddings and wardrobes, but I haven't done that in years. But I do have a snack line, um, and I would say creatively. at this point, I am more focused on, I think, education and forwarding that area of my life, being that I've gotten to and through college. That was a big deal for me and a huge goal. And so at this point, furthering my education with the intention of really being able to, one of my passions is parental support, because it's one of the hardest for me. I know all parents don't go through this for me, but parenting my children was one of the hardest things I've done. Also, one of the scariest things I've done. And I would say I did that because it would, that's the way learning was for me, because there were so many unanswered questions and support that if lent to you, you can do it in a different way. And so one of my passions is parental support, an organization that will support parents in getting their kids to and through college and getting them to success, and hopefully losing a lot less of our children to the ways of society or just to the miscommunication between parents and kids. I've seen that happen a lot. And so at this point, I'm really focused on forwarding myself to a place where I can live more of my life to supporting others and getting to their success, so that they feel a success with their children in particular, and then just in society in general.
So you said you are
So
working with.
I'm not creative. Uh, I am creative.
Well, I
As
saw
opposed
some
to
of
or in something that I lend to
I saw
for.
some of the beautiful outfits that you did create, right? So that's why I was like, wow. And I think it's really great to the transition, right? That you're transitioning from um, being an entrepreneur, the snacks, to really supporting parents in parenting, right? And how to support parents now in getting their kids to college, or just what tips are you able to share? Because I know both of your kids are very successful. They've gone to college, right? They're living and getting great jobs. What kind of tips can you share with parents around how you raised your kids?
Okay. That you're looking for by saying that there's no two parenting styles, there's no two children, there's two jobs. But what I will say is that what I find most valuable in raising children is consistency, consistency and accessible and available to them, and consistency in the dedication to get them. That's hard to do because we're human beings that we're bringing forth to our parents. My greatest desire in my children, I remember when they were very, very, very young, I would always pray to the Creator that He gave me the fortitude to get them to success, and that nothing else really mattered to me unless that, that was my ultimate goal. And that's what I focused on mostly. Um, I didn't come, I mean, I came from pretty progressive, but I didn't have a community that exude progressive outcome in the children or the next generation that was being produced. My children not reaching their greatest potential or being part of the community or society that was not coming out to their best
You know what? It's so
ability
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
that were
I'm
going
having a really
and
hard
in
time
what
hearing
we would
you.
call quote unquote the ghetto.
You hear me? I'm having a really hard time hearing you,
Too.
and
So I
it's
was saying
going.
that for me, one of the major things is consistency.
But I think it's the buffering. I
I'm
think
sorry,
the
say it
it's the
again.
computer. It's the computer, and we're not able to hear you because it's going in and out. And missing some of the words, and I don't think it's fair to continue. I really want to have you on when we can talk and we can hear you. So it's not working this way. And I want to really hear what you're saying, and I want everybody to hear what you're saying. So we might have to reschedule it and do it
Yes, you're
when we can really hear you. Is it my computer or
okay.
is it the phone? Because I'm not clear. Something's happening
Because you're
that's
buffering
not
as
making.
well.
So it's like we're bumping heads when I hear you. So what we'll do is, um,
Really
yeah,
short.
I'm,
Because you're
I'm
buffering.
gonna, yeah, I'm gonna have to reschedule
Oh,
you, right? Because I feel really bad because I know that there's great information, but we're missing it. We're only getting half the words, and it's going in and out, and it's buffering. You know, and I really want us to have a great conversation.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not sure you're going through not clear.
yeah, I don't
Hear
really
you.
know what you just said. Can you hear? You can't hear me either, right? So what we're gonna do is I'll just
I
tell
can't.
everybody.
No.
I'll just say a few things, right? And then I'll reschedule you for another time. We're really sorry about not being able to get this buffering right tonight. But we'll schedule another time for you to come on because I don't think it's fair
Okay.
that we can't bear, that it's in
Okay.
and out, in and out.
Right.
All right?
Granetta,
Yeah.
I'll speak to you later.
Yeah, okay. I'll call you later. That's what we'll do.
Yeah, it's not a good connection because I'm getting
Okay. Well, things happen, and so here we are. That happened, right? But I am Reverend G, and I'm here every Monday night, and I will definitely, definitely bring her back so that we can have the conversation around what she's doing in her life and how her parenting projects and the things that she wants to do. So I was going to tell you a little bit about the spiritual practices that I use, and then I think that I am going to say goodbye for tonight. But the spiritual practices that I use mostly are meditation. I love meditation because it centers me and it calms me down. I also love to sing. One of the big things for me is singing gospel music. I love singing gospel music. And there are times when just singing gospel music brings me to a really calm spiritual place. Those are two of the practices that I consistently do. And I also consistently read works like books about improving my subconscious mind and improving the way I look at life. I'm a big Abraham Hicks fan. I do the law of attraction is one of the main things that are part of my spiritual practices. So, not prepared with anything else. I'm going to say good night, adios. It's Reverend G. I will catch you next week on Conversations with Reverend G. And you can find me though every day on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube with videos that I do giving spiritual practices and talking about different tools. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, and I will see you guys all next week at 8 p.m. right here on WEMS Radio Live. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.